Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. Very excited to be with you on this Monday. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. The Olympics began this weekend. We're going to be talking all about Team USA men's basketball. They got the victory yesterday over Serbia, 110-84. Talk about Kevin Durant in just a second. Also, in about 10 to 12 minutes, Joel Embiid really struggling in the Olympics, in exhibition play, and then yesterday against his contemporary, his rival. I would argue that rivalry is kind of one-sided right now. Nikola Jokic. Discuss that in 12 minutes or so, and kind of why it points to a larger issue with Joel Embiid. Shift to football. Jordan Love. I said, it's funny, last week on the show when I came back, I said that Jordan Love, we could potentially be talking about a deal by the end of the week. And if I'll be gosh darned, 15 minutes after the show ends, if that, boom, Jordan Love gets the contract. So we'll be talking about that today as well, why the Packers absolutely made the right call on that. Later on in the show, discuss Jayson Tatum not playing at all, zilch, in the game against Serbia yesterday, and why I think it's a very tactful play, very, very smart play here by Steve Kerr. Discuss that at the end of today's show, why Russell Wilson should start over Justin Fields, even though Fields may be better. I don't know. I have a very interesting take regarding my Steelers quarterback situation at the end of today's show. We had some audio problems at the end of, or not the end of it, throughout the entirety, pretty much, of Friday's show. So hopefully I sound good right now. Hopefully there's no issues that are recurring. Hopefully we're able to get off and running. So let's go and get going. But first, Team USA won yesterday over Serbia, 110-84. Again, for Serbia, you had Bogdanovic. You had a number of nice guys in that Serbian team, obviously headlined, of course, by a guy I believe to be the best basketball player in the world, in Nikola Jokic, who was really good yesterday, 25, 8, and 5. Again, 28 and 5. I'll talk more about Jokic later. We'll get to Embiid. We'll get to Tatum, because that's been kind of the big story today. I don't know if we're giving enough love and enough shine to Kevin Durant. So again, all graphics provided by Alfred Parsard Jr., my man Alfred Parsard Jr., all stats provided by our friends at StatMuse. Can we show what Kevin Durant did yesterday? Oh, casually 23 points, 8 for 9 from the field, 5 for 5 from a shorter three-point line from three-point range in only 17 minutes. So Kevin Durant, who did not start yesterday, and it was reported only an hour before the game, hey, KD is going to play today. So it wasn't even a 100% guarantee 90 minutes before tip-off that we were going to see Kevin Durant yesterday. We saw him, and we saw him from the jump. Team USA, he comes in, they're down 6. He comes in, goes crazy at the end of the first quarter to give them a lead going into the second, and they rode the momentum from there. So it's funny about Kevin Durant. So I think those who have watched Carving It Up Live for an extended period of time have, or at least maybe think that I am a Kevin Durant skeptic or hater, and that's actually not the case. I'm a big Kevin Durant's one of Kevin Durant's biggest fans throughout his entire career. But I was thinking about this today, that I think if I were to write a book about Kevin Durant, he's played 18 years in the NBA, or about to play his 18th year in the NBA. This is now his fourth Olympic Games. He's been fantastic in all of them. And I was like, okay, how would I write the book about Kevin Durant? What I would do is I would divide it into 4 parts of the book. Obviously throw chapters into each and every one of them. And to me, chapter 1 about Kevin Durant is, wow, is he the greatest scorer of all time? I think he's the most gifted scorer ever. Some folks think he's the greatest scorer ever. Is Kevin Durant the greatest scorer of all time? That would be the first part of the book. The second part of the book would be great in Oklahoma City, won an MVP, unstoppable in Golden State because of the floor spacing, because of the system in Golden State, the ball movement that allowed the Warriors to get the best out of Kevin Durant, and he ended up winning 2 finals MVPs in 2017 and 18, and some believed at the time that he was the best player in basketball. That's what Golden State did for Kevin Durant. Part 3 of that book would be, why the heck did he leave Golden State for Brooklyn? It'd be one thing if he left Golden State to go to Boston, or one of the LA teams, or a team that's been historically relevant and successful and has a winning culture, the Miami Heat potentially. He went to Brooklyn with, at the time, kind of flaky Kyrie Irving, who was going through, kind of an identity crisis of his own. Like, what was that about? And the fourth part for Kevin Durant would be, he's the greatest player in NBA history when it comes to being a plug and play guy. If I had to have a draft, if I was a GM, and no matter what era of basketball we're talking about, and you said, okay, you know what? We've got a championship contender. The team's ready-made. We've got great scorers. We got great defenders. We got hustle guys, dudes who'll move the ball, great passers, the whole bit. Great coach. Take any guy in NBA history, just put him on a roster. Kevin Durant be my first pick. We talk about guys often. I remember when the Westbrook deal, ironically, Kevin Durant's teammate, and really part of the reason that he left Oklahoma City back in 2016 to come to my Warriors, was when Russell Westbrook was traded from the Wizards to the Lakers in, I guess that was July of 2021. That was, people forget, that was at the time when Russell was coming off another triple-double year, averaging a triple-double. He passed Oscar Robertson, the all-time rankings in that category, and was still regarded as a great player. And I always viewed him as a very flawed player, but still great. And when that deal went down, I said the next day on my show, you can go way back and look it up, 2021, I said, this is an awful deal for Los Angeles. He gave up a lot of assets, but more importantly, Westbrook's a terrible fit with LeBron James. He's a terrible fit with Anthony Davis and what the Lakers are trying to do, particularly when you're trying to compete for a championship while LeBron and AD are still closer to their prime. LeBron, who I believe to be the greatest player ever, we can argue that another day. He's not a great fit everywhere. Like, I was thinking about this. I've thought about this in the past. People talk about, man, if LeBron and Steph were to team up on the Warriors, the only concern I have is, what's Draymond's role? Because Steph doesn't always handle the ball, and when he doesn't, it's usually Draymond. But LeBron's an on-ball dude. Like, that's really the one weakness of LeBron James' game. Not that great playing off the ball. Michael Jordan, kind of similar thing. He kind of had to be on the ball to be really successful. Kevin Durant can play on ball, off ball. He can shoot the three. He can shoot the mid-range. He's efficient from the free throw line. He can get to the basket. He's obviously an excellent defender, certainly close to his prime. There was a year in Golden State, 2018. He was like top 5 in blocked shots. So in terms of being a complete offensive package and being able to give you some really good defensive minutes in spurts, in stretches, particularly closer, again, to his prime. If we're talking plug and play guys, if you took all 30 teams in the NBA, every single one, he'd make them all better. I can't say that about every player in the NBA. I love Luka Doncic. Love the guy. But my criticism of Luka and kind of my criticism of Jason Kidd and the Dallas Mavericks, well, I think they had a great run, and I picked them to beat Boston in the finals, was, man, when they are moving the basketball, when Luka is the focal point of Dallas's offense, but not Dallas's offense entirely, Dallas is really good. Dallas is really dangerous offensively. And by the way, them adding Klay Thompson, maybe shows a shift in Luka's approach. We'll see. But from what we saw most recently from Luka, don't think he make every team in the NBA better. Like, I don't think if you put Luka Doncic with the Boston Celtics, would it be kind of a weird fit there? Because he got so many good shooters and floor spacers and whatnot. You put Kevin Durant in the Boston Celtics, forget about it. That's one of the greatest teams ever right there. And so, listen, I think I've been critical of KD over the years, or I don't like KD. It's quite the contrary. I love the guy as a player. I think he's a really good dude. Is he sensitive? Yeah. Who isn't? To some degree. And again, I was just watching it yesterday, and this dude missed a month of action with a calf injury. LeBron was playing great. Steph had his moments. Anthony Davis was great in the defensive end of the floor. Anthony Edwards. And you look up, it's like, oh my God, KD steps the floor. Yep, there's Kevin Durant. What did he tell us back in the day when people thought, oh, Patrick Beverly, 6'1" Pat Bev is shutting down Kevin Durant? What did KD say? Kevin Durant. Y'all know who I am. It's one of my favorite all-time sports quotes. It's like, gosh darn right, you're Kevin Durant. And he showed the world who he is. I mean, never forget, Kevin Durant has a history of picking up right where he left off when it comes to injuries. Remember when he got hurt against the Rockets, and what I still believe to this day, people say it was a calf strain back in 2019. I'm sorry. There's no way on God's green earth that man didn't at least partially tear his Achilles, because the game he comes back against Toronto in the finals, boom, second quarter, the Achilles goes. But what happens before that? What happens when KD comes back to a Warriors team struggling to get anything going offensively outside of Steph? He steps in. It's like, oh, Klay's hitting shots, Steph's hitting shots, and oh, the ball's moving, it's flowing, and Kevin Durant's got, 11, 12 points. He looks great. Then his Achilles blows out, unfortunately. Even when he comes back from the Achilles, his first healthy season in Brooklyn, remember that playoff series against Milwaukee? Remember what KD was doing in that series? Dropping 50 burgers on Giannis and the Bucks, was an inch away, a toenail away from sending the Nets, a shorthanded Nets team, to the Eastern Conference Finals over the eventual champion Bucks. So listen, KD has a history of coming off of injuries and picking right back up where he left off. But I'm telling you, when it comes to plug and play guys, he is the greatest player I've ever seen in my life. Not the greatest player ever. I don't even think he's top 10. But I'm just watching that game, and I'm like, man, write the book about Kevin Durant. There's 4 parts in it. Number 1, wow, is he the greatest scorer ever? Maybe. He's certainly one of the most efficient scorers ever. Does it as effortlessly as anybody who's ever played the game. That's the first part. The second part of KD's book is, boy, amazing in Oklahoma City. Darn near unstoppable in Golden State because of the teammates he had around him and how it allowed KD to flourish playing his brand of basketball, because the Warriors allowed him to do that with their system. The third part of the book is, why the heck did he leave Golden State for Brooklyn of all places? Warriors are well-run, unselfish teammate in Steph, great catalyst in Draymond, great coach Kerr, great GM Bob Myers. Why did he leave? Well, what was he thinking? And the fourth part of the book is, greatest plug-and-play guy the game's ever seen. Ever. I don't think you can take Larry Bird, you could put in that discussion maybe, but if you look at guys throughout NBA history, even the greatest, LeBron, MJ, Kobe, people talk about, all-time starting 5. I've always said, I think Kobe's on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. Kobe's not in my starting 5 because I already got Kobe, a better version of Kobe. His name's Michael Jordan. So when it comes to plug-and-play guys, KD's the best I've ever seen, and you saw it yesterday in Team USA's win over Serbia. See, we got some comments here. Oh, Eric's in the comments. Sorry, LaFlop will never be the greatest. Jordan never even gave the opposition, the opposition, the belief that they have a chance of winning. And also, crack him if you got him. So Eric apparently comes from the Cam fam. I see the crack if you got him. So Eric, shout out to my man over there. I imagine he's part of the Cowboys Cam fan in some form or fashion. Shout out to those guys, AJ, Adam, and Anth. I'm actually going to be on their show this Wednesday. Should be at like around 9 p.m. Eastern. So very excited about that. Great to be. Football's back. I'm going to talk about Jordan Love in about 10 minutes. But, man, it is so football. You can taste it. You can smell it. And, yeah, crack if you got him. I have missed that phrase for some time. But I will have to disagree with you, though, as far as the LeBron thing, though. Eric is, Jordan never gave the opposition the belief that they had any chance to win a game. And what I would say to that is, listen, Jordan very well may be the greatest player ever. I think it's LeBron by an inch. I think it is, I don't want to say disingenuous, but it is certainly, I have a hard time seeing an argument for Jordan or for LeBron where it's them and it's not even close. Like, I simply don't see that because the thing about Jordan and LeBron is that whatever one guy did, the other guy did, and the other guy didn't do, the other guy did as well. And so that may sound kind of confusing, but Jordan's not the all-time leading scorer. LeBron is. LeBron has 4 rings. Jordan has 6 rings. Jordan didn't have the longevity. LeBron did. So we are talking inches, not feet. So I think the idea that it's the Grand Canyon, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, Eric. I'm not, putting words in your mouth, but that always drives me crazy. It's LeBron and it's not even, guys, it's close. It's Jordan and how could you, guys, it's inches, not feet. So I think we got to take that into account with the discussion regarding LeBron James, Michael Jordan. One of these days when there's nothing to talk about, and now is certainly not that time, man, because football's ramping up. We got the Olympics. We got a lot to talk about. But one of these days, maybe next year during the offseason when there's nothing to talk about, I may do like a whole hour and a half show comparing Jordan and LeBron and maybe having some panelists on that. That could be a potential fun idea. Maybe I'll pitch to the Grid Network. Speaking of the Grid, Patrick Brown's in the comments. Happy Monday. Check out the Olympic articles. More on the way. Yes, check out Patrick's stuff. He is putting out the articles like crazy, like a madman right now, y'all. He is putting out them articles about the Olympics, historically speaking, as far as the current Olympics. So definitely be sure to check out his articles on the Grid's website, which you can find that on the Grid's social media. Just click the link, scroll down, the articles will be one of the first things you see. Staying on this game, we'll talk about Jayson Tatum later. Staying on this game, I did want to talk about Joel Embiid because it has been, I feel like I've been in the ultra minority on this belief. And I feel like I'm starting to gain steam. I don't want to say like I'm like a cult leader or something. God knows I don't want anything to do with that. But I could say I was one of the first people on this, that the whole Joel Embiid, the ability to franchise around him is utter nonsense. And again, I think you're seeing that throughout exhibition play. Embiid has not played well at all. But yesterday you saw like the clearest example of it. And I'll put it to you like this. So Team USA played Serbia. Serbia doesn't have very many NBA players, but obviously the best player on their team, I think, is the best player in the world, in Nikola Jokic. And you would think one of the best players in Team USA would be a guy who's a two-time scoring champ and a league MVP as recently as last year in Joel Embiid. And I've talked about this when I've talked about LeBron James being the best player in Team USA, is the fact that basketball for all of Team USA, for all of the players, is easier now than it will ever be in their entire careers, because no one guy is the man. Everybody's got to worry about everybody. Got to worry about LeBron, KD, Steph, Anthony Davis, everybody. All the defensive attention is not towards 1, 2, 3, 4. Listen, you got to play them straight up one-on-one. Yet Joel Embiid's been terrible. And yet in a game where Team USA, you have to imagine Steve Kerr's entire game plan, stop Jokic or limit Jokic. Serbia's game plan is just survive. Just get into the fourth quarter of a close game because they got a lot of heavy hitters over there. Basketball's easier, in theory, for Joel Embiid than it could ever be, given the superstars he's got around him. And basketball, you would think, in theory, couldn't be any more hard for Nikola Jokic than it is right now, because he simply doesn't have that many talented dudes around him. And yet, let's put up the statistical comparison, put that up there, and it wasn't particularly close. Jokic had 20 points, Embiid had 4. Jokic had 5 rebounds, Embiid had 2. Jokic had 8 assists, Embiid did not record a single one. Jokic shot 8 for 15, Embiid shot 2 for 5. Jokic was 1 for 6 from 3, Embiid was 0 for 1. Now, Jokic did play 31 minutes to Embiid's 11, but there's a reason for that. Serbia literally couldn't survive without him on the floor, whereas Team USA was actually better when Embiid came out of the game, and Steve Kerr took him out like 2.5 minutes in. He's like, man, this is not working. We got to put Anthony Davis in. Let's try and turn the tides of this basketball game. And again, it has gone back to, look at his, show Embiid's numbers again. 4 points, 2 rebounds, 0 assists, 2 for 5 field goal percentage, 0 for 1 from 3, 11 minutes. I saw that stat when I was prepping for the show. I'm like, that sounds vaguely familiar to, I don't know, his fourth quarter playoff stats last year against the Knicks. Well, he was hurt. Was he hurt yesterday? Because if I'll go ahead and show the stat here, his playoff stats against the Knicks in the fourth quarter, identical to what he did yesterday. You could put it up there. In the fourth quarter of the playoffs, these numbers are hard to believe for a guy who's 7 feet 2 inches tall. 6.5 points, 1.2 rebounds at 7 feet 2 inches tall, 1.5 assists, shot 26% from the field, 11% from 3 in 10 minutes. Again, this is why, and I'll talk about Tatum later. And listen, I'm going to be somewhat critical of Tatum, and I certainly was during the finals when he didn't play well at all up until Game 5. But I have certainly been the minority in this position. If you gave me Joel Embiid, Jayson Tatum, say, Bryson, build a franchise around, you only get those two guys. Pick one to build a franchise around. I choose Tatum. First of all, I've seen Tatum and Embiid face 3 times the playoffs. Tatum's outplayed them all 3 times. Actually, the second time you could probably argue Embiid, but there was no pressure for the Sixers to win because they had injuries in the bubble. Point is, Tatum's 3-0 against Embiid in the playoffs. Tatum was on the ropes. Celtics were on the ropes, down 3-2 in a Game 6 last year, 2023, second round in Philadelphia. Embiid's got a shot to close them out. League MVP. Well, Bryson Harden got him 2 wins in that series they probably shouldn't have gotten. I'm at the front of the Harden is terrible in the playoffs line. But I'm also at the front of the Embiid's the only MVP in the history of the National Basketball Association to never get to a conference finals. Never gotten there as a league MVP, 2-time scoring champion, and alleged top 5 player in the world. This is why I've pushed back for about a year now, really since that loss to Boston, is the idea that this dude is currently, as we sit here today, in the same breath as Jokic, as Luka, as Giannis. It's a discussion with him and Tatum, but playoff success, I'm sorry, Tatum is objectively better. Well, Tatum's had better teams. Oh, so Embiid's played with scrubs? He's played with scrubs. So that 2019 Sixers team with Embiid, a good Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick. I mean, that Philly roster was, I thought, the second best roster in basketball to the Warriors back in 2019. That was a great Sixers team that couldn't get past what was a Toronto Raptors team. Yes, I get they won the championship, but if you go back, that was by far the worst series that team played in. Kawhi Leonard was simply phenomenal against the Sixers, and we all remember the buzzer beater he hit against them. So Philly was trash that year. So Philly was trash in 2021 when they were the number one seed in the East, and they were bad in 2023 when they had Harden, who had a great series until until game 6, was great in games 1 and 4, kind of saved Embiid's bacon in those 2 games in that series. So we're going to put the blame on Doc. We're going to put the blame on James Harden. Embiid gets none of it. Game 6 on your home floor, up 3-2. Tatum's awful through 3 quarters of that game. Feels somewhat notable. Against the Knicks, when every single one of the games came down to like the final 5 minutes, clutch time in the 4th quarter. And you go 2 and 4, should have went 1 and 4 if Maxey doesn't save your bacon in game 5 at the Garden. Again, I have been alone on this, on an island. I seem to be gaining more company, getting more company on this long island I'm on. It doesn't mean Embiid's not great. It doesn't mean Embiid's not one of the 10 best players on planet Earth. But basketball for him, just like for LeBron, Steph, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, everybody, in theory, should be a lot, not easy, it's the Olympics, okay, he's the best players in the world, but a lot easier than a regular season night in Milwaukee when the entire game plan is stop Joel Embiid, is stop LeBron James, is stop Steph, is stop Kevin Durant. Now it's, who gets a shot? Open guy. And 2.5 minutes in, when Serbia is building an early lead, Steve Kerr is like, yeah, this isn't working. I need to take Embiid out. So I think it's just, people have criticized Tatum. I'm going to get to Tatum in about 15 minutes or so, but I don't think we're giving enough of a, shining enough of a spotlight on the fact that Embiid has been in the playoffs objectively horrible. In the Olympics, garbage. Anthony Davis has been miles better. I mean, I thought conventional wisdom would tell you, and by the way, I was a part of this, I thought pretty comfortably that, oh yeah, Embiid's better than Anthony Davis. AD's great. I'm not so sure about that today. I'm not sure Joel Embiid he was a born American, but if we're talking just Team USA, the best Team USA, big. And that shouldn't be the case. That's not a knock on Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis never won a league MVP. Anthony Davis never been a scoring champion. We've never viewed Anthony Davis in the discussion as, hey, could this dude be the best player in the world? I'll tell you what Anthony Davis has done, though. Got past the second round. He's been better, a lot better in the playoffs, even back to his New Orleans days than Embiid's been. I don't know, something. I feel like it is, people are finally coming to what I've been saying for years, that it doesn't mean he's not great. But I remember back when Embiid dropped 70 against the Spurs. And I came out on my show the next day. I said, great, don't really care. Doesn't mean really anything to me, and I'm not particularly impressed. I got a lot of pushback for that. How could you not? I mean, I saw Devin Booker score 70. It meant nothing. Doesn't mean scoring 70 isn't extremely difficult. But I'm going to put a lot more weight on it. If you're a dude, you don't necessarily have to be a champion, but to be a guy who is consistently giving his best when his best is required in the postseason. That's how we judge the NBA. That's how we judge the greats. Why do you think MJ's considered the GOAT by many? He's got 6 rings. Why do you think he's got 4? He's been in the finals 10 times and is consistently better in the postseason than the regular season. I mean, if you ask me, start a franchise today, prime Jimmy Butler, prime Joel Embiid. I'd choose Jimmy Butler. Embiid's the better player, but Butler's had some historically great playoff runs. 2020, 2022, and 2023 has been great. So it has been really, I feel like America is finally becoming more aware of this. And yeah, the guy has simply not played well at all. And by the way, against South Sudan, who Team USA is going to play on Wednesday, I mean, I don't imagine whoever South Sudan's big man is as good as Jokic. And by the way, Jokic isn't known for being exactly a dude who's going to lock you down the defensive end. He dropped 4 points. Really? By far the worst starter. By far the worst starter in the game. I don't know. It's odd. All right, let's transition to football. And again, it's so funny because last week on Monday, I said from what I'd been kind of reading the tea leaves, reading the tea leaves as, is that Jordan Love would get paid by the end of the week. And I said, hey, we'll be talking about a Jordan Love contract by Friday. Well, it turns out at almost, let's say about 10 minutes after my show ends on Friday, boom, Jordan Love gets the richest contract in NFL history. So when people hear that statement, Jordan Love gets the biggest contract ever, people freak out like, oh my, how could you possibly? And what I would say to them is two things. Number one is, and I say this every time a quarterback who isn't universally regarded as top five, Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, those guys, is the market always corrects itself. I'll never forget, and it's going to happen again. So in about 8 months, so just buckle your seatbelts because it's going to happen. When Dak Prescott got $40 million per year, but got that big contract from the Cowboys back in 2021 and was like the second or third highest paid quarterback in NFL history. People are like, oh, how my God, oh, I don't even know how could you possibly give Dak Prescott? He's now the 14th highest paid quarterback in the league. The market always corrects itself, and eventually guys who, are the cream of the crop, are the best of the best in the league, are usually paid like the best of the best in the league. And so there's that in Jordan Love. In about 2-3 years, he'll go from the highest paid quarterback to like the 6th, 7th, 8th highest paid quarterback, which is around what I think the Packers believe he could be. Speaking of the Packers, the second reason they made the right decision on this is when it comes to developing quarterbacks, when it comes to a guy reaching his upside at that position with any particular organization, there's not a single franchise in football that I trust more than Green Bay. Not one. Listen, there's certain things we shouldn't question in sports. We shouldn't question Notre Dame's ability to develop offensive linemen. It feels like every other year, there's one that goes like in the top 5. I mean, you think about Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson, the kid who got drafted this year by shouldn't forget the guy's name drafted by the Joe Alt, drafted this year early in the first round by Notre Dame. Notre Dame can develop offensive linemen. We shouldn't question the Golden State Warriors' ability to develop shooters. Steph, Clay, more recently, Brandon Pajemski, like the Warriors develop shooters. And we shouldn't question the Green Bay Packers' ability to develop quarterbacks. They're the best in the history of the league at doing it. I've said, and this is why I was very, very skeptical of Jordan Love and the Packers last year. I had them as like a 7-win team, and Love would be kind of a middle-of-the-road, bottom half starting quarterback. Is part of it was, A, if he would have been great in the first 3 years, they would have replaced Rodgers sooner. And B, is the fact that historically speaking, you rarely go from one Hall of Fame guy to another Hall of Fame guy. You never go from Hall of Fame. I am no way saying Jordan Love's a Hall of Famer, but potentially if he does this year what he did at the end of last year, great quarterback. You don't go amazing, great. That just doesn't happen in NFL history. Montana to Young is rare. Aikman let me put it this way. Romo to Dak is not as rare, but it just doesn't happen very often. Favre to Rodgers to, who knows, Love is unprecedented. We've never seen it in the history of the game. And again, when it comes to Packers' ability to develop quarterbacks, I'm done questioning them. Because if you look at Jordan Love over the course of the last 8 games of last year, we could put this up here. He was a top 5 quarterback in the league. Last 8 regular season games, he was 4th in pass yards per game, number 1, 18-1 touchdown to interception ratio, best in football, 3rd in completion percentage, 2nd in 20-yard completions, 2nd in passer rating, and tied for 5th in terms of record. I mean, the Packers looked to be at midseason kind of dead in the water. They were 3-6, bottom feeders in the NFC North, and they were kind of in line with the Bears. And this is before the Bears got Caleb Williams and the other pieces they've gotten this offseason. They weren't a very good football team. The defense wasn't playing well. Jordan Love was turning the football over. And all of a sudden, I think it was a game against the Chargers at Lambeau. Jordan Love led a game-winning drive. And from that point on, man, he was just firing on all cylinders. He was great on Thanksgiving Day against Detroit. He had a big game that really caught my eye against the Kansas City Chiefs on a Sunday Night Football at Lambeau. And then the signature game for Jordan Love thus far is the playoff win in Dallas, where he goes in against a defense that was allegedly good and looked like a clone of Rodgers, just in terms of arm angle, moving in the pocket, smart decision making. Like, God, like how do the Packers keep finding these guys? And so again, the thing with the Packers recognize, because the Packers are a well-run franchise, this is what Dallas doesn't, because they're one of the worst run franchises in professional sports, is there some trepidation potentially about paying Jordan Love, even if we are great at developing quarterbacks? Yeah, but the price is not exactly going to come down for quarterbacks. It is, after all, the most important position in American team sports. The going value isn't going to come down. The market isn't going to hit a ceiling. Might as well get the deal done now. I mean, what the heck, if the Dolphins could get done with Tua, who has 0 playoff wins, we can't get it done with Love, who was arguably the best quarterback in football the second half of the season, won a playoff game and dominated. Just lost my mic there for a moment. Okay, so hopefully I sound better. If Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones' goal is to keep Dak Prescott, why don't you pay him in like March or April? Because now Trevor's gotten paid, and Tua's gotten paid, and Goff's gotten paid, and now Love's gotten paid. I don't know. But Green Bay does business well. They do business better than anybody in the history of the game at the quarterback position. And I mean, just think about this, folks. Favre became the starter in 1992? So for this is about to be 33 seasons, the Packers have been in as good a shape as anybody in football at the quarterback position. 33 years. Sure, there were questions about Favre coming in and Rodgers coming in and Jordan Love coming in, as if with any young quarterback. But man, and with different coaches, different GMs, different, obviously, receivers and defenses, it has been the sustained excellence of that position. The only knock on the Packers is the fact they only got 2 out of Favre and Rodgers. That's really the knock. Favre got to 2 Super Bowls. Rodgers got to only 1. And both had their shortcomings in the playoffs. I have been upfront about my criticism of Aaron in the playoffs. But man, I mean, that's the only knock. Other than that, this is as good as it gets in the history of the game in terms of developing the quarterback position. And credit where it's due. And I think the Packers were absolutely in the right at going to get the deal done with Jordan Love, give him his money, and let's not mess around. The guy's worth every penny, and in 3-4 years, he's going to be like the 7th, 8th highest paid quarterback in the league, and nobody's going to be freaking out about this money. And so, yeah, I was absolutely on Green Bay's side for making that happen. No question about it. And listen, it's most valuable position in sports. If you got a guy you believe in, get it done, and get it done as soon as possible. I mean, next year, Dak's going to get paid. Brock Purdy's going to get paid. Year after that, you have CJ Stroud. So, quarterback, it's a good day to be a quarterback in the National Football League. It really is. It really is. Also, too, I saw this on my social media. I think it was on Instagram, and then I saw it as well on Twitter. Don't believe... Misinformation is really hard to kind of get around, especially on Elon's app now. But I saw something where someone reported that the Cowboys had gotten a deal done with CeeDee Lamb. It was like 4 years, whatever it was, $136 million. And it's just flat out not true. And I was skeptical of that report when I first saw it, because A, it didn't come from an esteemed reporter in Dallas or like a Schefter or somebody like that. And for one, second of all, 4 years, $136 million. If my math serves me correctly, that means CeeDee Lamb gets $34 million a year. And that's a lot, but it's not Justin Jefferson money. And you have to imagine that CeeDee Lamb, I've done segments on this in the past, that I think Jefferson's the best receiver in football. I've said that for years. But statistically, side by side, these two guys came out of the exact same draft in 2020. Lamb's stats are comparable to Jefferson. And forget being comparable. If you are competent at that position, certainly at the quarterback position, and as well as the receiver position, you want to set the market, reset the market. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have done that. Tyreek did it. Last year, Jalen Waddle came close to doing it, his teammate in Miami, but you had Amon-Ra St. Brown get paid, A.J. Brown get paid. You had Devontae Smith to a lesser degree get paid. You have Justin Jefferson getting paid. Dallas's mismanagement of the Dak and Lamb contracts is truly something to behold. And, I heard somebody suggest today on one of the talk shows that maybe Jerry is the type of dude to want to give the biggest contracts in the league, or biggest contracts at their positions to Dak, to CeeDee Lamb, eventually to Micah Parsons. And what I would say to that is Jerry is a guy who likes to steal the press. He likes to be a guy who drags out a situation, drags out a story as long as he possibly can. You'd think he works in, as a pundit for a sports network rather than an owner and a GM of a team. But it's, to put it mildly, I don't think Jerry has, and I'm not banging him for this, but I don't think he has the kindness in his heart to do something like that. I feel like a need to pay Dak the most in the league. I feel a need to pay CeeDee Lamb the most. And I just think he's a poor negotiator. I think he's a poor GM because he's kind of always been a poor GM. I heard, Ian Rappaport, shout out to him, one of the best insiders in the game. But I heard him say today on the Rich Eisen show that, the Jones family and the Cowboys front office put together this great roster. I'm like, am I missing something? Because I don't see it. I think Dak's great, Lamb's great, Parsons is great, and Trayvon Diggs can be. After that, Zach Martin, you could say is great, but is a declining player. Naturally, he's going into his 11th year in the league. Offensive lineman should not be getting better at his advanced age and stage of his career. Deron Bland is the pick six master, but let's slow down. It's been 1 year. After that, the Cowboys O-line is fine, I guess. The weapons that Dak has outside of Lamb are absolutely bottom half in the NFL. I'd argue bottom 5 in the NFL. Maybe not New England bad, maybe not Carolina bad, but and who knows, maybe Xavier Leggetti will ball for the Panthers. Who knows if Bryce Young has time to throw? But goodness gracious, I've missed something. The last 2 years when I hear the Cowboys, they got one of the best rosters. Do they? I'm not gonna lie, I don't really see it. Anywho, let's transition back to Team USA because the biggest story coming out, the second biggest story was Embiid, which I talked about. Kevin Durant didn't get enough shine, so that's why I led the show off with him talking about his overall basketball reputation story. But Jayson Tatum didn't play yesterday. We had 10 guys stood up for Team USA, 2 did not play. One was Tyrese Halliburton, another was Jayson Tatum. And it was funny, Halliburton, they showed shots of the bench anytime somebody did something good. Halliburton's just excited to be there. I mean, there was a discussion coming into the Olympics, who's the worst player, and it's probably Halliburton, but I've been a fan of the guy since his rookie year in Sacramento, and he's a great player. An all-star caliber player. I can't put him at great yet, but he's an all-star caliber dude. Tatum, as you might imagine, and I don't blame him for this, by the way, wasn't thrilled on the bench. And was supportive of his teammates, was a good teammate, but he wanted to play, as any competitor does. Steve Kerr said after the game, he said, I feel like an idiot for not playing Jayson Tatum. And I don't know Steve Kerr, obviously. I have, though, observed him from afar for 10 years as a Warriors fan. I think Tatum playing was intentional on Kerr's part. I don't know for a fact that Steve Kerr just forgot to play Jayson Tatum. Am I supposed to believe that Steve Kerr, who's one of the smartest people involved with the NBA, who's been good, he's one of those guys who's just annoyingly good at everything. He was a really good NBA player, hit one of the biggest shots in the history of the finals back in 97 against the Jazz, gave a great speech at the parade afterwards. He was a great broadcaster for TNT. He was an excellent front office guy, really put together the Phoenix Suns, who were giving the Lakers fits in the Western Conference back in the mid-2000s. Was a great GM, great broadcaster, really good player, and great coach. I'm sorry Steve Kerr is a great coach. Otherwise, he would not have been tabbed to coach Team USA. The whole Steve Kerr is the Warriors' Achilles heel is objectively ridiculous. So with that said, he's a smart guy. I think Tatum not playing was intentional. I could see a situation in which Jayson Tatum, again, I don't know what happens behind the scenes. Maybe there was something that happened at practice. I don't know. But South Sudan, kind of their strength, they have a lot of wings. What that tells me is that Kerr's game plan going into Wednesday's game against South Sudan is Embiid's not going to play much. I don't think Bam's going to play much. Like AD, I think is going to be Team USA's primary big. He's going to play more minutes than any of the bigs on Team USA. So that's going to open up a lot of, a lot of minutes for the wing guys, for Anthony Edwards, for Steph, for Booker, Kevin Durant, and I think for Jayson Tatum. And I think what has been, what has been the prevailing theme, the primary story around Tatum as it relates to Eastern Conference Finals, Brown's the MVP. NBA Finals, Brown's the MVP. And in the Olympics thus far, well, he has yet to play a dribble. And what's weird about that is the fact that Team USA's roster in 2021, which wasn't nearly as good as this one, Tatum was the second leading scorer on the team to KD. So Tatum was really, really good in the Olympics back in 21. And so it's weird to see a scenario in which he is not even getting minutes over Embiid, who's been awful, and over other guys, maybe potentially Devin Booker, who I think Tatum's a better player than Devin Booker, but Booker fits what Team USA wants to do, at least wanted to do against Serbia in a more impactful way, in a better way. But again, Steve Kerr, there's people questioning like, oh, what was he thinking? He was disrespectful. I don't know that. It's the same Steve Kerr who has brought Steph off the bench before. He's done that. He's brought Draymond off the bench before. It's the same Steve Kerr who, in the middle of the 2015 finals, maybe his greatest coaching call ever, takes Andrew Bogut out of the lineup, puts Andre Iguodala in, who had never started a game during the regular season. The Warriors don't lose a game after that. So this is the guy who makes adjustments on the fly. Listen, this is the same guy who, yes, he learned from Popovich, and he took a ton from Greg Popovich, but he also learned after Phil Jackson. And doesn't this feel like the type of thing that Phil Jackson would do? Like a player on the best player, I believe at least, on a championship team, the Boston Celtics, doesn't play. Everybody's kind of questioning, what is he doing? And then out of nowhere, said player gets a shot, goes off. Was this as simple as Kerr's trying to light a fire in Tatum that he doesn't necessarily see right now to get the best out of him in the next game? Maybe. We've seen coaches in all levels of sports, in any sport, do that. And so I think Kerr is kind of playing dumb. I think Kerr is putting off this front like, oh, gosh darn it, Steve, what were you thinking? He's smarter than that. So listen, he can't fool me. I have observed Steve Kerr from afar for a long time as a Warriors fan. The guy he was in the media. He was a broadcaster for a long time, so he knows how the game's played. He's been a coach long enough. He knows how to be able to manipulate a story. Everybody's beating up on Steve, and in that way, he's kind of protecting Tatum by taking the hits for not playing him, but also by not playing him, maybe pissing Tatum off before the game against South Sudan or against, in the future, I think Puerto Rico is Team USA's next game, and then move forward once they get out of the group stage. But I'll tell you what, he learned from Phil Jackson. Don't think he hasn't taken a couple of tricks from the Zen Master himself. Really interesting to see. And he said, by the way, Tatum's going to play against South Sudan. So interesting to see how Tatum comes out. And if he plays really well, give a little credit to Steve Kerr. That's all I'm saying. Warriors fans hate him. I don't really know particularly why. Why do you play Trace Jackson Davis more? It's like, if you think that's the difference between us winning a playing game against the Kings and getting blown out by 20 plus, I love Trace Jackson Davis, but he's not that big of he's not Kevin Durant or something. Ah, boy. I got to eat it today. John Rivera, let's go Yankees. You know what, John, you got me today. I can't say anything. So, yeah, Red Sox, I said we'd take two. On Friday's show, I said we'd take 2 of 3. Turns out we lost 2 of 3. And first game of the series, they're down 7-4 in the 7th, come back and win. I think, was it 9-8 was the final score? I think it was 9-8. Game 2, the Red Sox, in what was a crazy game, back and forth, there's push and pull, had the lead in the 9th. And with 2 outs, Yankees were down to their last strike. They tie the game, end up winning in extras. And then last night, the Red Sox simply could not take advantage of guys of runners in scoring position. The Yankees won that game 8-2. But yeah, Red Sox have not come out well at all post All-Star break. We've only won 3 games. We've lost 2 of 3. I'm sorry. No. My bad. We've won 2 games. Okay, because we lost 3 against the Dodgers over a couple weekends ago in LA. Somehow, some way, we lost 2 of 3 to the darn Rockies. And then we lost 2 of 3 to the Yankees, who have not been playing good baseball. So my Red Sox have a big series coming up at home against Seattle. Seattle's only a half game behind the Red Sox. Is that where it is right now? Half game behind the Red Sox. The Sox are only a 1 game back of Kansas City for that last AL wildcard spot. So, yeah, definitely did not want to take the 2 of 3 or lose 2 of 3. Certainly against the New York Yankees. So, John, you got me, my friend. I hate to say it, but Yanks got us this time. When's the next Red Sox-Yankees series? We pull it up. Was it going to be in September? I hope it's in September. Yeah, there you go. September 12th. It's a 4-game series, September 12th through the 15th in the Bronx. So that should be fun. Red Sox-Yankees is always fun. All right. End of the show. Let's talk about my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there has been discussion in Steelers camp, outside of Steelers camp, prognosticators, and fans alike, who's going to be the Steelers starting quarterback to start the 2024 season? And will he maintain his job? Will it be Russell Wilson? Will it be Justin Fields? And I said when they added both of those guys, Russell, well, I guess both were added during March. Russell added in free agency, one year, whatever it was, $1.2 million. Justin Fields acquired in a trade from the Chicago Bears, and the Steelers do not pick up his 5th-year option. I was thinking about it today, and I said, you know what? I think the Steelers are in a really unique position to put themselves in a good position as it pertains to leverage to get Dak Prescott. And what I mean by that is I think Pittsburgh's in a much better position with Russell Wilson than with Justin Fields for 2 reasons. Now, for the record, I've been critical of Russell. That's putting it mildly the last 2 years. I used to be a Russell stan, but man, the Denver performance was pretty hard to forget. But if we could put up last year, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields stats, Russell was absolutely the better player. Okay, he had more yards, 200 more yards, 9 more total touchdowns, 1 fewer pick in more games, by the way. 5% better completion percentage, 12 points better in terms of passer rating, and he won 2 more games than Justin Fields did. So, yeah, Russell was better in 2023 than Justin Fields was. What I was thinking about was this, though, is as a Steelers fan, do I believe, and I liked Justin Fields out of that 2021 draft, I did, to the Chicago Bears, but by the end, it's like Chicago's the number 1 pick. You have a transformative talent, I believe at least. And Caleb Williams coming out of USC, you take Caleb Williams. This isn't backing off Josh Rosen for Kyler Murray. Like, Josh Rosen was horrible. Justin Fields was not horrible with the Chicago Bears. And I think Caleb Williams is going to be much better than Kyler Murray. But I absolutely support the Bears in making that call. But the Steelers have an opportunity to do something. That if they could be really smart, if Russell starts, if the Steelers win 9-10 games, Mike Tomlin secures his no-losing season streak once again, and the Steelers are good, they beat some good teams, they split with Baltimore, they shock a team, maybe they beat a Philadelphia late in the season, and they're good, and they fight for a playoff spot, but kind of get edged out by, who knows, maybe the Bills or the Dolphins. I don't believe much in any of the teams in the AFCs this year. Maybe the Jets sneak in or somebody like that. The Browns, God forbid. There's only 7 teams can get in. The Steelers find themselves in a position slightly more favorable than they did a year ago. Where last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers had easily, I believe, the worst quarterback room in the National Football League. What about the Jets? I give them some pass because Rodgers was supposed to be their starter. Okay, he blew his Achilles in the first game. Kenny Pickett was supposed to be the starters for the Steelers, and I was skeptical on Kenny out of the draft. I bought into him more as he balled out last year in the preseason. Maybe I shouldn't put as much hype in the preseason. And Kenny Pickett was a disaster. And Mitch Trubisky was even worse. And Mason Rudolph was good, but Mason Rudolph is a backup quarterback. All 3 of the guys in the Steelers quarterback room a year ago, all of them were backup quarterbacks. And there's no low-end starter, high-end backup on that team. It's all backups across the board. Clean sweep. Russell Wilson's not a backup. He's a bottom half starter in the NFL, and that's much better than the Steelers can say a year ago. Justin Fields, I consider in that same category. Bottom half starter in the NFL, maybe in the low-end starter, high-end backup category. He's certainly flirting with it. Here's my fear if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. That Justin Fields plays and plays well enough, slightly well enough, because let's be honest, he certainly has higher upside today at his age than Russell Wilson has at his age. Plays well, just well enough. They get in the playoffs. Maybe they even win a playoff game. But then they get like blown out by Kansas City or somebody, or Houston, and it's sort of back to square one. Whereas Justin Fields doesn't play a snap. Maybe plays a couple of wildcat plays, but Russell, knock on wood, stays healthy throughout. Steelers win 9-10 games, flirt with the playoff berth again. Justin Fields doesn't play much, and guess what? Justin Fields' market doesn't move one iota. So that the Pittsburgh Steelers, please, merciful God, sign Dak Prescott in free agency. So that's your guy. You got your franchise dude, and you bring back Justin Fields in like a 1 or 2 year deal to be his backup. And then you draft a quarterback, 4th, 5th round, and you trade Justin Fields and get some value for him. Because ask yourself this: who has more value today, Russell or Justin? It's Justin. I think Russell today is a better player, but Fields has more value because he's younger, and we don't totally know for certain. Has he hit his ceiling? Can he get better? Is there an organization in the NFL that thinks, hey, he can be our franchise guy? The fact that Steelers didn't give him his 5th year option, I probably would have done it, but the fact they didn't do it shows they don't necessarily think he's the guy necessarily. So again, if I'm Pittsburgh, to me, my foremost goal, get the most you can. Tomlin doing what he does, getting the most he can out of this roster, for the record, which I think has some really, really, really good players. I loved the draft class. I love the fact that the Steelers have been all in, to use a term from another NFL owner, on totally rebuilding the offensive line, which they're doing an excellent job of doing. And rebuilding the offensive line, we're getting weapons, maybe bringing in a Brandon Ayuk potentially from the 49ers, getting a number 1 receiver. We've got George Pickens, upgraded an offensive coordinator. We're good again this year. We don't win as many low-scoring or one-score games we did a year ago. And then because we're a football-first championship culture organization, it attracts a guy who will be a free agent, who is playing in a losing culture, football's like 3rd or 4th on the list in terms of importance. And he gets to come there. You keep Justin, you move Justin, get some assets for him. Or you keep Justin as Dak's backup. You could do that too. My hope is that Justin Fields is the Steelers quarterback, or is on the Steelers roster this year and beyond, just not as the starter. I think the Steelers would play their cards very... Now, listen, if Russell bombs in training camp and is terrible, now you got to change your plan. You're not tanking the season. You're too good to do that. But that's how... If I were the Steelers, and Tomlin's a far smarter guy about football than I am, certainly. The Steelers make good football decisions historically, but that's how I would approach it. Is there's a guy who is an absolutely, clearly, and objectively a top 10 quarterback in the NFL he's going to be a free agent. That never happens, ever, in NFL history. He's going to be a free agent. Anybody can sign him. You're telling me we can't attract him? Well, we've got the money to pay him. We've got the money to pay Dak Prescott. We've got the culture. We've got the Lombardis, certainly more recently than Dak Prescott's current employer does, to attract him over, and you do what you can do with Justin Fields. Keep him as Dak's backup or move him. That's what I would do. So I would start Russell Wilson. I really would. First of all, I think he can win them more games this year than Justin Fields can, and Justin Fields is certainly a more valuable asset than Russell Wilson is. I mean, sure, we basically got Fields for a 5th, 6th round pick, but Russell is on the vet min, 1 year, $1.2 million. Which is why I like I was like, Russell, But then I sat back, I took a deep breath. I'm like, okay, he's way better than the guys we had last year because we had a horrible quarterback room. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's $1 million. It's not like the mistake Denver made paying him, a king's ransom. So listen, the Steelers, I'm going to have to, suffer. No, I shouldn't say suffer. I'm not a freaking Lions fan prior to last year, but get through another 9-10 win year, maybe a playoff berth, maybe not a playoff berth. Tomlin's going to get his non-losing season because that's what he does. He's certainly a great coach. I just wish that wasn't necessarily the standard, and I don't think it is. I think Tomlin is kind of shifting that, and the Steelers can go all in and get one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League next year in free agency. And then, whoo, anything of a dangerous monster coming out of Pittsburgh, PA, as the Super Bowl contender in the AFC. Kansas City, we know, is the standard bearer. I think Houston is going to be awesome this year. I love Houston. Baltimore's not going anywhere. Cincinnati certainly isn't. Knock on wood if Burrow's healthy. But there you go. Come on, please, Ed. Please, Jesus, let us allow Dak. Oh my, let us have Dak with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh my goodness. As a guy who is a Cowboys fan and a Dak fan when he was in college, certainly I was over the moon when the Cowboys drafted him in 2016. I ditched the Cowboys in 2020 because they handled his contract horribly that offseason. He then breaks his ankle. At that point, I'm like, screw the Cowboys. I'm done. I'll pull for them simply because Dak is there, but I can no longer call myself a Cowboys fan. Those that do, God bless you. You got a lot more patience than I do. And then last offseason, I'm like, man, I need a team. I need a team to root for. With the Warriors and the Red Sox and Tennessee Vols college sports, I need a team. I choose the Steelers. And if it works out to where Dak ends up on the team that I chose, not having no intuition that he'd end up there, come on now. That would be, if you don't believe in higher power, that would have to convince you otherwise. All right. Shorter show today, but listen, lots to discuss in the world of sports. Going to talk on Wednesday. Going to have Bryce's best 10, carving up the context. Team USA hopefully getting a victory. You would think much more comfortably this time than last time against South Sudan. So very excited about that. The Olympics is here. The Olympics is rolling. And by the way, can I just say this? Team USA has more medals than any country in the whole wide world in Paris, France thus far. We've got 20. I think last I checked, does Japan have like 16, I think? What's the medal count right now? Okay. So Team USA, we got 20. Let's go. America. France, it's their home turf essentially. They've got 16. And Japan is in third with 12. Now, Japan is leading in gold medals. We are leading in silver and bronze. And so, so we have 8 silver, 9 bronze, and 3 gold. Definitely like to tick up the gold medals a touch. But hey, Olympics are another couple weeks. Simone Biles is going to get it done. Our U.S. American swimmers, men's and women's, are going to get it done. They're awesome. And listen, come on now. The men's and women's basketball team. The women's basketball team is going to roll to a gold medal. And the men's basketball team, they're not going to run unchallenged necessarily like the women are, but they're certainly going to be in a really good position to get the job done. So let's get that win against South Sudan on Wednesday. All right, that is all the time I have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving It Up Live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. I mistakenly said Twitter at the beginning and the end of the show. It's actually, we're on Facebook today. Evidently, Elon won't let you live stream on Twitter unless you're a verified account, which is just like every single other one of his Twitter policies, utterly ridiculous. But hey, that's Elon Musk for you. So we're on Facebook for the time being as our kind of our third destination to see the show, as well as obviously my YouTube channel, Carving It Up, and the Grid Network's YouTube channel. But again, be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. We are on the road to doing that. So again, if you have not subscribed, just takes a couple seconds. Hit that big red subscribe button down there, and boom, you become part of the Carving It Up family. If you have subscribed, appreciate it. Thank you so much. It means everything to me, to everybody involved with the show. Please tell your friends about Carving It Up. Please tell your family about Carving It Up. Please tell everybody you know in your life about Carving It Up. Just don't tell your sleeping cat. It's just not a very good idea. It's not a good idea. Shout out to Neelan. All right. Also, almost forgot. Just as importantly, be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere you get your favorite podcast, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any and everywhere you get your favorite podcast. I don't even know if Google Podcasts is still a thing. Is it? I know. I think YouTube's got some podcasts now. I don't know. The podcast game is changing by the day, folks. So definitely gotta keep tabs on it. But we'll see you on Wednesday. Please be sure to stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. It doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. It's an issue that impacts every single one of us as American citizens. And no matter what anybody on either side of the aisle tries to gaslight you on, oh, it's not a problem at all. Oh, there's only one solution to the problem. Both are not true. Both are BS. It's a huge problem that needs a number of nuanced, complex solutions to solve it. And especially this being an election year, definitely got to be cognizant of the fact that we need to put some people in who have the intention of wanting to make it a safer country. So it's an issue I'm very passionate about. So let's do what we got to do. All right. I will see y'all on Wednesday. Let's go Team USA. Let's keep bringing them the medals to the greatest country in the world. I will see you then. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. He's Kevin Durant. He told you he was. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.